Over the last few years, I've pondered and pondered what to do with my life. And I do a lot of things with my life. I've done a lot of great things. I've accomplished a lot. And I have a beautiful family, 4 boys, an incredible wife, a nice home and cars, and a rewarding career, a couple albums that I've wrote. And God's blessed me with an abundance of things. There's still this deep desire to want to do and to want to accomplish and do hard things and learn and start things and discover things and hear people's stories. And I've seriously toiled with this question so much for the last few years. And I was just listening to a video on YouTube that went viral about a guy talking about you just need to be, and like stop doing or pressing to make things happen, because they're going to happen regardless. If it's in God's plan for you, it's going to happen in his timing. And we press for things to happen in our own timing, and we get upset or question if it doesn't happen in the timing that we expect. And we live in this instant gratification culture, and so it's hard to wait for things. But I think during the waiting, at least for me, as I push to discover, like, what is my calling in life, and what do I need to do, what do I want to accomplish in this season, and just a little backstory, I've listened to thousands and thousands of hours of podcasts since COVID. And since the pandemic, I became obsessed with podcasts. I would go to sleep or lay in bed and listen to hours of them every single night. And it's been a couple thousand days since COVID. Not a couple thousand, 1,500 or whatever. And during that time, I've listened to hours of podcasts and read dozens of books and been in the Bible and in the Word and praying and seeking and having conversations with people. And it's been like this fast track of trying to like figure things out. And I just want to consume and consume and consume and consume and consume over and over, just consume and learn and consume. And then I'm hit with like this realization, like, you just got to go do it. You have to just do it. And it seems so simple to just go do it. And I can try to learn everything about everything, or try to figure out all the steps to writing a solo album and have all the songs, worked with the best people. And then when it comes to just going and doing it, I get hung up and I search for something else. So maybe I should start an eBay business. So I pour all my time into an eBay business and do pretty well at that, but it sucks all the time. And then I go back to YouTube, and maybe I should do YouTube videos. And maybe one will go viral. Maybe my song will be heard, around the world or whatever. And I'm thinking, do I really want that? Or is that the goal? Like, what's the goal in doing this? And being narrowed down is I think we go through trials, we go through stuff in our life, we go through hard things, and it sucks in the process. But when we get to look back in hindsight, we can choose to use those struggles and the darkness, I like to call it, like the darkness of our past, and we can go into that now, and we can fight it, and we can learn about it, and we can conquer it so that we can live with this freedom that we've already been given. Or we can choose to run and hide from it and not use it to our advantage, not use it to help people out that are going through a similar situation. And I think going into the darkness is where I'm at. And it's conquering my past. It's conquering the reason why I think about things. It's conquering when I used to drink, the things that I would say or do were not even close to the same person that I am now. It's like 2 completely different people. And I don't often think about the stuff that happened in my drinking days. And it's been 17 and a half years now. often think too deeply about, well, why, what was I running from in that time? And what was I trying to escape from? And I was running from the darkness. And now I've discovered if we go into that and we fight that, especially with the power of the Holy Spirit, like that's the most powerful thing we can have on our side when we go into that. And we're not going to be overcome by it. We're not going to be forsaken. We're not going to be left. But how do we go into that to take out something to help someone else? Because if we just go in it to help ourselves, it's going to have a less meaningful impact than if we're to use it to help someone else, to help someone get sober, or to help someone with a death in the family, or a mental illness, or a divorce, or an addiction, incarceration. There's things could always be worse with our life, and it's easy to get hung up on the things that are wrong instead of thinking about the things that are right, and having gratitude each and every day. Because like when we actually think about right now in this moment, as you're listening to this and you're thinking and you're sitting or you're driving or whatever it is, what do you really have wrong with your life right now in this moment? Not like with your mental state or in the past or in the future, like right now in this moment. You're healthy, you're breathing, you're alive, and you have the things around you that you've been given. And it's easy to forget that. It's just simple, like to just live in the moment and to breathe and to feel your breath. And we don't often think about that. At least I don't. But I get on these late night thinking sessions where I think I'm onto this new idea, and next thing you know, I'm down another rabbit hole and I'm back to consuming again. And I looked at my phone and I spent 8 hours and 15 minutes on it. That is more than half the time I'm alive, or I was awake today, sorry, that I stared at my phone, or that I watched something, or that I listened to something, or I listened to a lot of music today and a lot of YouTube. But what is that doing for me? What is that doing for you to consume and consume and consume and consume and consume? Consumer. You're gaining wisdom or gaining knowledge if you're consuming the right content, which is good. And if you're reading, that's good. But if that doesn't amount to accomplishing anything about just doing it, then we're just wasting that. And we're not utilizing it. And we don't know if we have tomorrow. Tomorrow's a gift. We have today. We can live for the day and make the day the best that we can, and be the best versions of ourselves, and be the best husbands and fathers or mothers, and just live for today in the moment and breathe and know that we're going to get through it. A lot of us, I'm 40, a lot of us now that have experienced enough life to know that life is hard. Life is about struggling. It's about overcoming those struggles, and you get little glimpses of pure joy, of pure bliss in it. And those are the moments that I tend to look back on and reflect on and think about them. And the brain cannot tell the difference between a real life situation and one that's vividly imagined using all senses. And so to go back and think about when I first entered Yosemite, in the absolute beauty that I was awestruck with, that I literally broke down in tears, because it didn't feel real. It was just so incredibly beautiful. I had to pull over the side of the road and get out and just take it in. And I will never forget it. And when we see something that beautiful, it doesn't even have to be a place, right? When we see something that beautiful, we have what's called a paradigm shift. And that is when our mind goes outside of the track of our normal way of thinking. You think of like those little cars that go on the racetrack that are like magnetized in there with the needle, and you have to go pretty fast to like get them to go out of the groove. And that's what our brain is. It's like this track, and our cars go around and around and around and around and around and around the same track. 95% of our thoughts are repetitive. And so that groove just gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And the more that we just go on living the same way that we've lived yesterday and think about the same things we thought about yesterday, like the deeper that groove gets, so the harder it is to break out of it. But the kicker is with paradigm shifts, and why I love paradigm shifts so much, and I talk about them all the time, is that when we strive to bring our way of thinking outside of ourselves, it makes that groove have on-ramps, off-ramps. So it makes it easier to get out of our way of thinking. And when we have life experiences where we say, oh man, maybe I shouldn't judge that person for doing that, because I know how hard it is, because I've been there. And when we go into these prisons and there's 300 men that are on their hands and knees, worshiping, connecting with God, with the music. And if I was to go out and complain about something that I have, and with all the freedoms and blessings that I have, when I see that opposite reality of, like, there's people that are really struggling. There's people that don't have homes. There's people that don't know where they're going to eat next. And there's people that are locked up for the rest of their lives. But those are still people. And they still matter. And how do we all come together to make that a better system, right? Because certain people can only do so much. But if we all do something for someone, if we see that one person that needs encouragement or that one person that needs help, then we can start to make a difference. And it's as simple as the golden rule: treat others the way you want to be treated. And if you were down on your luck, if you were having a bad day, man, you just love it if someone came and said something nice to you or helped you out. And that's honestly why I was starting to record this today. I thought, I'm listening to this video and I'm in another one of those vortexes of just consuming, and I need to do. And so part of how I do is I process things with multiple people, and what better way to do that than with the whole internet? And I have all these things that I want to do. And it's funny, sometimes my wife can tell me something and I'll go and hear it from another guy or from a sermon or from a YouTube video, and I'll be like, oh, guess what I heard? I heard that you don't have to XYZ, right? She's like, I already told you that. And I'm like, well, yeah, but John said it. John said it this time, so it makes sense. Sometimes it takes like that fourth or fifth or sixth time for it to finally click. Because again, it's that paradigm shift. It's that same groove in our brain that we go around thinking about things. And it might take a lot of effort or a lot of people telling you something over and over for you to finally get out of your way of thinking. And so here's my dilemma, and why I kind of wanted to record this again is to give people just a look into my life and how I process things, and how I feel like we can all benefit if we all kind of work together to help people and to help ourselves be the best versions of ourselves. There's a lot of things on the internet, and I think there's a pressing to be the best versions of ourselves, right? And to be authentic. And it's hard to be authentic because you worry about what people are going to think about you. It's hard to put a video out of myself processing myself because it's vulnerable and it's going to get feedback and criticism. And some people might not like it. Some people might resonate with it. Some people might judge, whatever the case. But I knew I had to get this out because it helps me to process things and to move on and to start doing things. So I've been a musician my whole life. And I got into a band because I was at a POD concert, and I got called up on stage with a whole bunch of other kids for Youth of the Nation. And I climbed up there, and the singer, he put his arm around me, and in front of a sold out crowd of 17,000 people, I sang, we are the youth of the nation. And I had no idea that was going to happen, but that moment changed my life forever. And it was literally a 15 seconds of fame taken from a movie. Well, somebody that was at that show saw me, and they knew a friend that was looking for a singer in their band, and they reached out on MySpace, which is pre-Facebook, mostly music driven, where you discover a bunch of bands, like 10 years. But anyway, I got into my first band then, and I was 19 years old. So 21 years I've been playing in different bands and music, and now for the last 10 years I've been a worship pastor at a church. And it's a way more rewarding career, and for my soul and for my purpose. But I feel like it's been 10 years. Is this where I should be, or is there something else or new that God's trying to call me into? And so I've had all these ideas. I love podcasts, as I've shared earlier. I've listened to thousands upon thousands of hours, and I wanted to start a podcast for a long time, but I keep putting it off. I've wanted to record a solo album for quite some time. I've put it off, and I've even recorded 15 songs with a Grammy award-winning producer, and I haven't shared it with any public domain, just with some friends. And they're good songs. A lot of them are good songs. But I haven't done that. I haven't finished it. I started an eBay business last year, and I've sold on eBay for 15 or 20 years. But I started an eBay business last year, and I sold a lot of things, over $10,000 in things that I flipped and sold. And it sounds like a lot of money, but when you get through buying all the product and shipping all the product, it's not even that much in tax. It's not that much of money at the end of the road. But I did it, and I accomplished it, and I learned about it, and eBay's gotten a lot better with their algorithms and the ease of listing. And so it's another way to make income. And I've wrestled with all these things, like even starting a new business. And there's things that I have written down as well. My wife said, why don't you write it down, all your ideas, and then pick some of the best ones. But so I've done that, wrote down all the ideas, and I still sit and I still contemplate, what do I need to do? And I struggle with that, with actually just doing some things. And again, it's looking back and saying, okay, I have done a lot of things. I have accomplished a lot. Why do I still feel this overwhelming desire to keep doing? And when is this going to feel like enough? Is it going to feel like enough? Or am I just pressing too hard and not letting the things come to me? To say no to more, so I can say yes to the more meaningful things. And man, if you looked at my schedule, my calendar, it would stress a lot of people out. There's not a lot of free time, and hence why I'm up at whatever time it is, 11 o'clock at night, sitting in my car, because it's the only place that I can talk without waking someone up. And I'd like to record stuff, but again, all the kids are sleeping. Don't have a studio. Should I make a soundproof vocal booth? Oh, let me go on YouTube and spend 14 days researching that first, and then sidetrack it because I got another project. So that's the dilemma. And I just wonder, does anyone else deal with that? And how do you overcome it? And how do you make peace with the fact that, like, we do things and we accomplish things. When is it enough? Or why do we keep pressing? And a lot of the things I want to do are I feel like are good things that are going to help humanity. And I think they're good things to put into the world. And so how do you make these ideas actually happen? And how do you decide which one? I don't know why it seems so simple as I'm processing it now, but it's like we only get one life, and how often do we think about, well, tomorrow could be our last day, or we could lose someone tomorrow, and what would we regret not doing, or what would we regret not saying, or not accomplishing, or not pushing for? Like my dad is in his 60s, and he could retire, and he's worked his whole life. His body is given out on him. He's had 2 knee replacements. His body's giving out on him, and he's still working. And a lot of our culture is just programmed to think we need to work until 64, 65, and then we get to retire and do what? You know, one of the best books I read in recent years is Halftime by Bob Buford. And he basically talks about you the first half of your life, you're working so hard to build your career and to build your life. You know, you're having a family, you're getting a job, you're getting your education, you're getting your work experience. And then you reach this halfway point of your career in your life, and it's the midlife crisis thing, right? And so you either coast into retirement, which a majority of people do. They get complacent and they say, okay, this is my life. It's chosen for me. I can't do anything else. It's too much of a risk to try something, and they just coast into retirement. But there are the other people that at the halfway point, they choose the one thing that's in their box. Bob Buford talks about choosing the one thing that's in your box that you're going to serve. And are you going to strive to have a career that focuses on money or on relationships or on your marriage or on being the best parent? What is the one thing that you're going to put in your box? Put that in the box, and everything that you do, make it go towards that, to helping that goal. But you can only serve one thing. You can't serve both God and money, because you'll love one and you'll hate the other. So you have to choose one thing. And in that moment, I chose. And opportunities have been pouring in since then. And maybe that's why it's overwhelming, because analysis paralysis, right? We go to Baskin Robbins and there's 31 flavors to choose from. No matter what flavor we pick, when we leave, we're going to be disappointed. Oh, I should have got cookie dough. Ah, dang it, I should have just got vanilla. You're never going to be satisfied knowing that you had 29, 30 other options. But if you just have two options, chocolate or vanilla, and you get the vanilla, you're going to be fine. You're going to be happy with it. But it's like we have so many opportunities in this day and age with technology that we can do literally almost anything we want to do. Literally, almost anything that we want to do, we can do it. And if we don't know how to do it, we just go onto YouTube, or we could do some research online and we learn how to do it, and we do it. And so we get to choose whatever we want to do and pursue it and to make the most out of it. And I think too many people live their whole lives without taking risks. And sometimes it only takes like 2 to 3 risks, like big risks, for a huge payoff. And what is that going to be for you? Maybe what is the risk that you've been wanting to do, or the thing that you've wanted to pursue that you've put off for so long? And don't ask yourself all the questions all the time about why. Just go and do it. Just do it. Stop consuming and just do it. Yeah, it helps to process things. And if I'm going to start a podcast, this is probably the first step to that, is talking through things with the internet, but really with myself, and just getting it out. Sometimes it just feels good to just get some things out, because then they're no longer inside, like bouncing around. And so I think my wife told me to do the album. Maybe I'll find some way to like put a clip of one of the songs on there, because I just want to know like how people are going to receive it. But that shouldn't be why I release it. But she told me I should finish the album first, because it's been something I wanted to do for a long time. I actually wanted to go into a cabin, like in the northern part of the U.S. in the winter, preferably, where it's just crisp and cold and like quiet, and record an album with like full creativity involved, and no pressure to like do things besides just be present with the album. And it sounds like a dream come true, honestly. Like if I could go to sleep and wake up in a month, that's what I would do with my life, is just be in there with no pressure to do anything except that, or to just like write a book. You know, just that stillness of being away, I think is, man, what so many people crave. It's just like some stillness and some peace. You know, even our vacations are stressful nowadays. Like, I used to think going to Disney World or a theme park was a vacation, but it's not. It's a lot of work. You know, we spend all this money. We work hard to save this money, to spend it, to go somewhere, to try to give us an experience, or to try to like relieve some stress, and we come back more stressed and more tired, and then we gotta go catch up on the work we missed. So that lure of spending quality time just quiet with no agenda except to do one thing in a cabin in the woods sounds so appealing. But some people it might not, because they thrive on, you know, just like my wife, she thrives on being in all the community things with all the sports and having things on the agenda, and it's fine. People are different, and I do like those things to an extent too. But there's just this overwhelming sense to want to do things and create things. And maybe that's just the way my brain works. I'm a constant thinker. So I guess, I don't know what the point of this thing is, just to vent or to see if other people feel the same way. But I'm curious what you feel like people want to hear about on a podcast. And authenticity, I think, is one of the things that people relate to, because, you know, we can't watch or listen to anything without feeling like we're being marketed to. And so people just want to experience something real. And with AI the way it is, and deep fakes and voiceovers and auto tuning, and everything can sound perfect and look perfect and appear perfect, but it's not. You know, I always joke with people, like, there should be a social media platform that's called Realbook. And maybe that's like that one where you got to take a picture of yourself at the same time every day or whatever. But it's like, we all go through real stuff. We all face real problems, but we portray our best selves so that other people might like us. But that's kind of why I tend to not like social media as much, because it's just not real. It's a pretend version of reality. And I want to live more present. But I say that after I've spent 8 hours on my phone. You know, so that's just the struggle of, man, I know what I want to do, but I do the opposite, as Paul says. So how do we do the things that we're called to do? And are they just going to happen in the universe's time and God's timing, no matter how much we push for it? It's life's puzzling questions. So anyway, it's been good to vent it out with you guys. Thanks for listening this far along, if you have. And maybe there'll be some new music or a new podcast at some point. So y'all take care. God bless. Peace.